We have a mailing list that you can subscribe to if you click on the link that's in the description of this video. We ask people who sign up to fill out a quick survey. One of the questions in that survey is, what is your biggest frustration as a programmer? So I've picked the top 5 kind of themes. Number 1 theme is about not having enough time. This is a problem that most people can relate to. You feel like you don't have enough time to do all the things that you need to do for work, to implement your own projects. We try and do things like regular content on this channel, regular blog posts. It does get quite frustrating because it feels like you never have enough time to do everything that you want to do. Something that I find personally helpful is just to prioritize the things that are important versus the things that are urgent. This is some advice that I got from Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek book. You have some tasks that you think are super urgent, that you think need to be done now, actually don't need to be done now or are not that important. And some tasks that are really important don't actually need to be done immediately. Trying to figure out what's urgent and what's important. One common mistake that people do, and that I've done in the past many times, is prioritizing email and other forms of communication and notifications over tasks that you're currently focusing on. Email is usually not that important, even if you're working in a company. Usually emails can wait. One of the most productive things that I do is to just turn email off completely. I don't have email notifications anywhere. I just check email when I allocate time to do that, and I try and batch it out all in one go. Next piece of advice is to avoid social media. Now, this is a common thing that I suffer with all the time, is basically being addicted to checking Facebook. Figure a way to completely block these channels from your computer, like you're a child in school or something like that. Maybe modify your host file or do something that allows you to actually block Facebook during the day while you're working. There's a good extension in Chrome called the Newsfeed Eradicator. It blocks out the newsfeed while you're on Facebook, so you can still use messages and that, but you don't see all the kind of distracting newsfeed content. If you're an Android user, then you can install the app called Quality Time. And what this app does is it tracks what you are looking at on your phone, and it tells you exactly how many hours you spend looking at the different apps and doing different things on your phone. This is useful because it allows you to see what you're spending most of your time doing. Oh, you spent 2 hours on Facebook or Instagram. Maybe uninstall different apps and things like that if you find that they're wasting too much time. Another good thing for help with not having enough time to do things is what is called the Pomodoro technique. You do 25 minutes of just focusing on a specific task and then a 5-minute break. There's different apps and extensions and things that you can get, and it really helps you kind of keep focused for set periods of time. I find that really helpful. I usually use that on a daily basis. Right, the next most common theme was finding work as a developer. To me, it hasn't been a problem for a while, fortunately, because I live in London where there's quite a high demand for developers, but this may not be the case in other places of the world. It may depend on how much experience you have and how much work you have public. The number 1 thing that you can do to help improve your chances of finding work is to make sure that you have a public portfolio of your work on GitHub or on a website or something like that. It's really about demonstrating that you have lots of experience, or that you've built lots of things, and showing actual tangible outcomes or outputs of work that you've done in the past. This could be actually writing applications that you make open source and put on GitHub. It could be creating actual tools that you use that you put on the App Store, or build a website. Anything that basically can demonstrate your skills as a developer. Make sure that you have good communication skills. From my experience, it's fairly rare in the development world. There's lots of people that have lots of different experience and maybe excellent developers, but they may not have great communication skills. It's just simple things like making sure you have good written skills, making sure emails are formed well when you're speaking to recruiters and potential employers, making sure that your CV is completely free of any grammatical errors or typos. That is a really big one. When I've been hiring developers in previous roles in the past, it's astounding how many people will send CVs that have spelling errors and typos and things like that. That is just an immediate red flag for any employer, because it just demonstrates that you're not really serious, don't have good attention to detail. Make sure your LinkedIn is fully up to date with all of your experience. Recruiters contact me through LinkedIn every day based on the content that I have on my LinkedIn profile. Make sure that all of your LinkedIn descriptions and everything is free of any typos or grammatical errors. Make sure it's all clean and looks presentable. Another piece of advice for looking for work is be friendly to recruiters. A lot of people get frustrated with the recruiters because you can get lots of calls. If you're a programmer in a city like London, you may get lots of calls from recruiters and they may be contacting you about jobs that are not appropriate or don't fit your skills. Basically, be friendly to them. They're just doing their job. They're trying to do the best that they can. They are basically the gateway to some of the best jobs in the market. If you work with them, they will work hard to make sure they find you a good job because they get paid for doing that. It's always good to be positive. Don't send rude emails back to recruiters and things like that. Don't publicly share things on LinkedIn about how much they annoy you. They do a good job most of the time, in my experience. Basically, all the roles that I've ever had have been through recruiters. Stuck for work still, you can look on websites like Upwork and Freelancer. The downside of these websites is you usually need to start small. You need to probably undercharge a bit for some work just to get kind of good reviews and good feedback. But once you get some good reviews and good feedback, you can do quite well on those websites. The third most common frustration around the fast pace of technology and the fact that you learn something new and then you feel like within a year or even some cases months that technology is obsolete. Technology is such a fast-paced thing. It moves so quickly, particularly on the JavaScript side, like the front-end frameworks and things like that. You find that there's new ones coming up all the time. My number one advice for this is just to accept this as the reality of working in technology. You need to stay on top of it, and part of being a developer is understanding that you're going to be constantly learning new things. Look at it from the point of view that you are learning how to learn new things and learn things quickly, as opposed to being able to master a particular technology. The fundamental principles behind a lot of them are the same. The more that you learn the technologies, the more that you'll find you're able to pick up new things. Eventually you'll find that you can pick up things really quickly. I picked up Python pretty quickly, coming from PHP background. They're very different languages, but there's also a lot of similarities, and a lot of it is more about figuring out how to figure things out. Work on higher level languages like Python and JavaScript. Yes, there's lots of JavaScript frameworks come out all the time, but if you focus on the kind of core language JavaScript, then it should be easier to pick up these new frameworks. Next common theme, finding solutions to programming problems and bugs. I would suggest this is just part of the role of being a software developer. You may think that you're paid to create new applications and to build new things, and that is mostly true. However, another big part of being a programmer is you're simply there to just find solutions to problems and fix bugs. Any software that's ever built has bugs in it. There's no such thing as a bug-free application. One way that really helps me fix bugs and has been extremely useful in the past is using Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a question and answer site that allows you to ask very specific programming questions. In my experience, I find that within a few minutes, someone responds to a question, basically answers it for me. I would suggest both asking questions on Stack Overflow and answering questions on Stack Overflow. Finding solutions to bugs and things like that is not about fixing the specific bugs, but learning the techniques used to fix bugs in general. The more that you practice fixing bugs, the quicker that you'll be able to do these in your own projects. So if you help other people fixing bugs and you answer other people's questions, that's excellent practice for you to go and practice fixing bugs that will help you be able to do it quicker yourself. Master the debugging tools. If your language has a debugging tool, if it's JavaScript, then you can use the Chrome debugging tool or the one that comes with Firefox. If it's Python, you can use the Python debugger. Learn how to use the debugging tool for your programming language, because that will really save you a lot of time when it comes to fixing bugs. I spent a lot of time kind of procrastinating learning the actual debugger tool, thinking, I don't have time to learn the tool because I need to focus my time on fixing this bug. That turns out to be kind of counterproductive, because really you can fix bugs 10 times faster if you learn how to use the debugging tool. You could ask questions in the IRC channel for the technologies. IRC is Internet Relay Chat. It's kind of an outdated technology now. However, it is still very popular amongst some of the more old school, who tend to be the most experienced developers, particularly for languages like Python and frameworks like Django, they're always really helpful. They're really happy to help you as long as you have a good attitude towards asking them a question. You have to understand they're not there just to answer questions for you. They're taking time out of their day to help you with an answer, so you need to treat them with respect. I've seen lots of people go on IRC channel and be like, why is no one answering my damn question? I need an answer now. They're not obliged to answer your question. They can choose to answer your question, and in a lot of times, if you have a good attitude, they will choose to answer the question and they'll answer it well for you. Finally, I would just accept that constantly handling problems and dealing with bugs is just part of being a programmer. Once you accept that, it kind of becomes easier to deal with. One of the frustrations is coming up with ideas for sample projects when learning programming. It can be quite challenging sometimes to think of an idea of a sample project that you can make for somebody to use. You obviously don't want something that's too complicated, that will be too challenging, but also you don't want something too easy. My suggestion for this is to keep a central location for storing ideas. I often have these random ideas of little tiny projects that I think could improve my time, and I come up with these ideas at inconvenient times. So my advice would be to keep a location like a Google Doc or a Google Keep that you can just constantly add these little ideas to, so you can kind of build a repository of your own ideas that you can then look to anytime that you develop or learn something. You can just go to your ideas, and maybe there's something that you had an idea for months ago that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I could do this with this new framework that I'm learning or this new language that I'm learning. Think of things that would help save you time or money. One example that I had is a project that I started called Clippy.rocks. You can access it at Clippy.rocks. I was getting annoyed with having to send clipboard content to my phone when I was working with mobile development. I needed to paste a new API URL into a app in debug mode on my Android phone, and I was getting annoyed at kind of the tedious task of typing out http:// on the mobile phone. The mobile keyboard input, it's not designed for inputting URLs and secret keys and things like that into apps when you're debugging as a programmer. So I developed a simple app that just runs on my Android phone that gives me a web browser interface on the web front end, and I can just send content directly to my Android phone's clipboard. This was really helpful. It really helped me with my job. So I just thought, you know, there was nothing like this available at the time, so I just built it, and it's kind of an example that I use, something that I can give to employers to say this is an example of work that I've done in the past. Okay, so I'm going to conclude that Q&A there. If you have any other frustrations or questions that you would like me to answer, just leave it as a comment on this video, and I will aim to do another video answering other people's frustrations as soon as I have enough people give me questions. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you want to get more updates of more of my videos that I do, please subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe to our mailing list, which we will put a link for in the notes of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.